She said she was just reading in bed, but my doorbell camera showed her coming home at 3 a.m. The doorbell camera timestamp said 3:04 a.m., the kind of blue hour when the street looks like a drained aquarium and everyone respectable is asleep. The motion alert was waiting on my phone when I woke up at 7. One of those silent badges I swipe without thinking before scrolling the news. I don't know why I tapped it. Maybe because the apartment was too quiet. Maybe because the other side of the bed still held the dent of her, warm in a way that made my stomach tighten. The footage opened with a fisheye view of our little stoop, wet concrete, the neighbor's geraniums listing to one side, a moth doing its mindless figure 8. Then there she was, Anna, coming up the steps fast, breath fogging, shoulders hunched like she was keeping something inside her ribs from falling out. She had told me she'd been reading in bed and drifted off. In the video, she was wearing a black hoodie. She'd fallen asleep in a gray one. I replayed the first half-second. Gray was definite when she kissed me goodnight. Light heather, soft, the one she stole from me, the one she called her Thursday cloud, the one that seemed to turn her smaller somehow. Sheltered, the black hoodie on the video swallowed her. It looked cheap, the kind of cotton that pills after 2 washes. She fumbled the keys, dropped them, bent out of frame, came back up. The porch light caught on something on her sleeve, a dull, dark oval. She opened the door and slipped inside. Quick, not glancing at the camera like she usually did. The door drifted shut. The clip ended. I thumbed back to live view, to our hallway. Cream paint, the little metal shoe rack, the plant she keeps moving to chase the sun. Nothing moved. I put my phone down. Listen. She was in the shower. Water against tile has a way of sounding like a lie, because it rinses everything away. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched steam inch along the open bathroom door. When she came out, hair braided wet down her back, she smiled like she always does in the morning. That sleepy, tender half-smile that makes me forget I'm a cynic. "You were out?" I asked it lightly, like I was asking if she'd seen my charger. The line I told myself I'd never cross, interrogation before coffee, came faster than I expected. She blinked. "Out? Number." I fell asleep reading. I think I dreamed something awful. I woke up sweaty. Took a shower. "What were you reading?" "Wolf." "The letters?" She squinted at me. "Why?" "Nothing," I lied, which never sounds casual in the mouth of someone who catalogs details for sport. "Just heard the shower at a weird time." "Can I make you tea?" she asked. A laminate of care pressed over the sudden stiffness between us. While she put the kettle on, I walked past the hallway table. The gray hoodie wasn't there. The hook where she always throws it after work was empty. On the shoe rack, her beat-up white sneakers, a smear of something on the rubber toe I hadn't noticed last night. A different smell in the air, too. Cleaner, sharper, not her usual powdery vanilla shampoo. Something like citrus pith and steel, maybe the new laundry detergent I bought. Maybe something else. I have cameras, not because I'm paranoid, I always say, but because I like to know when packages arrive and whether the landlord's cat is the one tearing up the trash. In college, when my last girlfriend was cheating, I didn't have cameras. I had only the vague dread of someone who knows he's the last to know. It taught me to prefer proof to instinct. Now, even my proof had the uncanny blur of doubt. I brought my phone into the kitchen and set it face down. She made tea and slid mine toward me with both hands. Careful. She had a new hair tie around her wrist. A thin pink loop that didn't look like the thick black ones she buys in packs. Her eyes were slightly swollen, like she'd cried or hadn't slept. And the braid had a small unevenness that always means she did it in a hurry. I could feel the version of me that is both protective and controlling lining up evidence like chess pieces. I hate that version. It makes every room feel like cross-examination. "How late did you stay up?" I asked. "I don't know," she sipped. "Past midnight. I lost track. You went under so fast, you were out cold, babe." "I was," I agreed. I had been, and I hated that too. Years ago, when I was blindsided, my friends told me afterward, "We saw the signs. You were sleeping next to a ghost." Now the camera had seen her come home, and I hadn't seen the bed lighten when she left. We didn't speak much while we got ready. She kissed my cheek before she left. Soft. Then lingered like she wanted to explain something and couldn't. After the door closed, I felt the absence of her like a draft. I picked up my phone and replayed the clip again. Keys clatter. Left sleeve lifts. The stain flashes. Dark, almost burgundy under the porch light. Then the cut to black. I scrolled back further, checked earlier motion events. Nothing at midnight. Nothing at 1. The first alert of the night was 3:04, then my own exit at 7:12 to take out the trash. I opened the camera settings. Sensitivity high, night vision auto. The Wi-Fi log showed a small dropout around 2:07. Our old router hiccups when it rains. It had rained. Still. The hole made me itch. On instinct, I opened the bedsheets with the same hesitant dread. You open a message you shouldn't. The imprint on her side was deep and warm. Her book, tucked awkwardly beneath the pillow, was indeed Wolf. A library copy with a due date stamp that had bled a little in the humidity. The bookmark was a receipt from 3 weeks ago. A coffee place near her school. A thin thread of black lint clung to the linen. Not the concrete gray I'd expect from her hoodie. I rolled it between my fingers until it disappeared. At lunch break, I took a walk to clear my head and failed to clear anything. I told myself, if she wanted to go out at night, she's allowed. If she changed her mind about telling me, she's allowed. If she needed air at 3 a.m., if she just needed to walk without me knowing she needed to walk, she's allowed. And yet, the black hoodie that wasn't hers. The stain. The new smell. The warm bed like a decoy. The soft, practiced way she kept her answers narrow so they wouldn't touch anything that hurt. Back at home that evening, I found myself rifling the small, dumb places where life leaves evidence. The bathroom trash, the hall table drawer, the pocket of the coat she almost never wears. I wasn't proud. I was not the man I tell my friends I am. In the kitchen bin, beneath onion peels and a glossy yogurt lid, I saw the corner of a printed strip, the sawtooth top of a receipt. I pulled it out with 2 fingers. Hotel Helix, bar, 2:17 a.m., 2 drinks, a service charge I could feel rather than see. Dates have a texture you remember in your hands. The total wasn't high. Enough for 2 cocktails I don't know how to pronounce. A shadow of lime on the paper. The bartender's name started with S. The rest was blurred with something damp. A twinge in my stomach. Familiar. Hated. I put it back like it burned. For a minute, I stood in the middle of the kitchen listening to the refrigerator hum and the pipes settle. I told myself the receipt could be old. The Helix is 3 blocks from our place. We'd been there last month for a fundraiser. The hours on the slip, though, sat beside the scar of the 3:04 timestamp, like 2 points on a map with only 1 road between them. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the couch and opened the doorbell clip again. I watched it at quarter speed. I watched the reflection in the door glass, trying to see if anyone else was with her. Nothing but the bloom of the porch light when she raised her arm. I paused as the fabric bunched at her wrist, and the dark oval swam into view again. Impatient, wet-looking in the LED glare. The kind of stain you only get from something that doesn't come out on the first wash. It could have been wine. It could have been makeup. It could have been blood. It could have been any of those and none of them. My chest hurt in the way it does when adrenaline is looking for a place to crash and finds only bone. I told myself I would ask in the morning. Tell me you couldn't sleep and you went for a drive. Tell me your friend needed you. Tell me the stain is cranberry juice and the hoodie is borrowed and you didn't want to wake me. I promised myself that. Then, just before I closed the app, I noticed something I hadn't before. When she bent to gather the keys, her left hand shook. Not a tremor, a jolt. Like someone who'd been running or crying too hard. And, for a fraction of a second as she straightened, the camera angle caught the car beyond her shoulder through the gate. My car, and the driver's seat showed a dark mark at the edge where the thigh meets the seat, a twin to the oval on her sleeve. I froze the frame and leaned toward the phone until my own reflection swallowed the image. The next morning began with the same sunlight slanting through the blinds, but it felt like a different house entirely. The coffee maker sputtered, her mug sat on the counter, and the gray hoodie hook was still empty. I stared at the space like it might answer me. She came into the kitchen humming faintly, hair twisted up this time, the black hoodie tied around her waist like it had always belonged there. "You're quiet," she said, pouring milk into her tea. "Didn't sleep great," I admitted, though what I really meant was that I'd been watching the camera footage until my phone burned hot in my hand. She looked at me for a beat too long, like she wanted to ask what kind of dreams I'd had, and then she looked away. After she left for work, I sat at the table and unfolded the hotel receipt I'd fished out the night before. The date was smudged, but the timestamp was sharp. 2:17 a.m. The service charge printed neatly. 2 drinks. My thumb rubbed the corner until the paper softened. I couldn't shake the feeling it had been left where I would find it. I checked her location sharing on my phone. Disabled. We'd turned it off months ago during a weekend trip when she said, half joking, "I don't want you to know when I sneak out for surprise pastries." Neither of us had switched it back on. I considered, for the first time, installing one of those quiet GPS tags under her car seat. The thought made me clench my fists. I hated myself for even thinking it. But the hate didn't erase the temptation. By noon, I had called my oldest friend Liam. He's the kind of guy who wears suspicion like cologne. I told him about the hoodie, the receipt, the timestamp. "Mate, that's not nothing," he said through the speaker. "Who was she with? That guy from her school? The one with the hair?" "Marco," I said automatically. I hadn't thought of him in months. But Liam's suggestion lodged like a splinter. "You want me to help you check?" Liam's tone was half amusement, half challenge. "No," I said too quickly. I just needed to say it out loud. But the seed was planted. That evening, when Anna came home, I asked, "You were up late again last night?" Her eyes flickered. "Just enough." "Marking papers," she said, sliding her bag onto the table. "It never ends." "Strange," I murmured. Because the system shows you online at 2:51. That's late even for you. Her shoulders tightened. Are you checking my activity now? What are we doing here exactly? I just noticed. I shrugged, playing casual. Didn't mean anything. It always means something when you bring it up, she said softly. Her face was tired, more than annoyed. We ate in silence. I pushed food around my plate, listening for lies in her breathing. Later, after she went to shower, I opened her photo roll. I told myself I was looking for our vacation pictures, but my thumb scrolled too fast, eyes scanning for something out of place. Buried among notes and screenshots was one that froze me. A blurred image of a police form, blue stamp visible, dated the same night as the footage. My pulse kicked hard. Why would she have that? Why hadn't she said anything? I almost confronted her right there, but the sound of running water stopped me. Instead, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the screenshot until my eyes hurt. The next day, I ran into Ira, her neighbor and close friend, outside. She had a grocery bag tucked under her arm. She looked at me carefully when I said, "Has Anna seemed different lately?" "Different how?" Ira asked. "Out late, not telling me where she's going." Ira's mouth pressed into a line. "If you love her, you trust her. If you don't, you let her go. Don't break her with suspicion." Her words cut sharper than she knew. I nodded, but inside, the suspicion doubled down. That night, as Anna sat at the desk grading papers, I noticed her whispering into her phone. Not playful, not casual, urgent. I caught only 4 words when I entered the room. "She's safe, don't worry." My stomach turned. She looked up and forced a smile. "Just a student's parent," she said. But she'd turned the screen face down. Later, taking out the trash, I saw something small near the back fence. A pink elastic hair tie, looped and bright against the dark soil. Not hers. She always uses black. I held it in my palm, feeling like the world had shifted one click to the side. When I went back to the camera archive, I slowed the 3:04 clip again, and then I saw it. Behind her, half out of frame, was the blur of a second figure, shorter, stepping quickly, swallowed by shadow. The camera had only triggered once she was fully in view, which meant I'd missed the moment they entered together. A second shadow in my doorway. And she never said a word. I couldn't let the image of that second shadow go. It lived behind my eyelids all night, flickering like bad film. By morning, I was carrying it around in my chest, heavy and sour. When Anna slid her arms around me in the kitchen, I stiffened without meaning to. She noticed, of course. She notices everything, but said nothing. Just held on a second longer and then let go. At work, I opened the camera clip again, freezing every frame. There, her shape sharp, and just behind, a smaller figure, hunched, moving fast. The pixels broke apart when I zoomed, but I could tell. This wasn't just a trick of light. Someone had been with her. That night, I walked past her school under the pretense of taking a different route home. Through the window, I saw her at her desk, phone pressed tight to her ear, eyes darting to the hall like she expected someone to burst in. "She's safe," I heard again when a student pushed the door too wide. My pulse climbed. Who was she? Why was Anna lying to me about being home while clearly running around with someone else? When I confronted her in the kitchen, the words came out sharper than I intended. "Why didn't you tell me where you really were the other night?" She froze, spoon halfway to the sink. "I already did. I was home. The camera saw you at 3 in the morning, and not alone." Her face drained, eyes flaring wide. For a second, she looked frightened, not guilty. "Don't," she whispered. "Please don't." "Don't what?" I demanded, my voice cracking. "Don't dig into this. It's not about us." That answer was worse than denial. It was a locked door where I could hear voices on the other side. Later, pacing outside, I called Liam. He didn't hesitate. "She's hiding something. I told you. Probably that guy, Marco. You need to get ahead of this. Check her car, her messages. If she's lying, don't let her turn it on you." His certainty fanned my paranoia. I hated that I believed him more than I believed her. That evening, after Anna went to bed early with the excuse of a headache, I slipped outside. Her car sat under the streetlight, dusted with pollen. I opened the driver's side door and felt the seat with my palm. A faint crust where the dark stain had been. Something metallic and sour clung there. My stomach twisted. On the walk back, I spotted something near the back fence again, glinting under the porch light. A tiny pink hair tie. I turned it over in my fingers. Not Anna's. Too bright, too young. I felt a chill. Was she bringing someone here? A younger girl? My brain clawed through every terrible possibility. At 2 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and opened the footage again. This time, when she bent to grab the keys, her arm shielded the smaller figure beside her. For half a heartbeat, the porch light reflected off another set of eyes. Wide, scared, before the door closed. I sat there in the dark, staring at the paused frame, my hand shaking on the phone. Whoever that was, she had brought them into our house at 3 a.m. and then told me she'd been reading in bed. And the worst part was how certain she looked in the footage, how her body shielded the figure like she'd do anything to keep them unseen. I didn't know if that made her more of a stranger to me or more dangerous. I carried the weight of that shadow around like a second heartbeat. Every time I looked at her, I saw the frame again. Anna shielding someone smaller, eyes darting, keys shaking in her hand. I wanted to believe there was a good explanation, but every cell in my body screamed she was hiding something from me. By the third day, I couldn't keep it in. I cornered her in the living room, words rushing out before I could stop them. "Who was with you that night?" Her face changed instantly. Not anger, fear. She closed her eyes for a moment and said quietly, "I can't tell you. Please trust me when I say it isn't what you think." "That's not good enough," I snapped. "You're lying to my face. You disappear in the middle of the night, come back with stains on your clothes, and you expect me to just trust you?" Her voice broke, but she held her ground. "If I tell you, it puts someone else in danger. It isn't about you. It isn't about us." That answer cut deeper than any denial could. She walked out of the room, and I was left staring at the empty space she left behind. That night, when she slipped out again with a bag of clothes, I grabbed my keys and followed. My headlights stayed far back, my hands slick on the wheel. She drove across town to a building with a battered sign, a shelter for women and children. She carried the bag inside without looking back. My chest collapsed in on itself. Was this what it was all about? Why hadn't she just told me? I parked down the street and walked up to the entrance, but when I tried to follow, a volunteer blocked me gently. "Only clients and staff, sir. Please." I stammered something about my girlfriend, but the woman's eyes softened in a way that made me feel like an intruder. I turned and left, heat crawling up my neck. Back home, guilt and paranoia fought like dogs in my head. Maybe she was helping someone. Maybe she was lying anyway. I couldn't decide which thought hurt more. When I told Liam what I'd seen, his voice sharpened. "You're being played, man. If she really cared, she'd tell you. What kind of relationship is it if she runs around in the middle of the night with secret bags? You need to be smart. I know a guy who can dig into this. A private detective." I almost said yes. The bitterness in my throat made it easy to imagine. But then, later that week, I opened my car door and froze. Sitting on the passenger seat, folded neatly, was the very receipt from Hotel Helix I'd thrown back into the trash. Crisp now, not damp, placed where I couldn't miss it. Someone wanted me to see it. The next day, an envelope appeared in our mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with blocky handwriting. "You don't know her. Check room 314 at Helix." I read it 3 times. The letters burning into my skull. The date on the bottom matched the night she told me she was in bed. The same night the camera showed her walking in at 3 a.m. My hands shook so badly I almost tore the paper. She wasn't just keeping secrets. Someone else knew about them too. And they wanted me to find out. I couldn't shake the words in that anonymous letter. Room 314, Helix. That night, it spun around in my head until I felt half drunk on dread. I tried to play normal at dinner, but Anna kept looking at me like she could feel the static coming off my skin. When she reached for my hand, I pulled away too fast. Her face shuddered, like a curtain dropping. The next evening, I gave in. I drove to the Helix Hotel with the letter folded in my pocket, damp from my sweat. The lobby smelled like lemons and stale cologne. I walked up to the desk and asked if someone had checked into room 314 that night. My voice was steady, but my pulse was slamming. The clerk clicked at the keyboard, then looked up. "Yes, room 314 was used. Reservation under Liam." The name hit me like a shove. My best friend, the one who had been feeding me suspicion all along. I forced my voice level. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "Credit card too. Liam Taylor. He was here." I staggered out into the parking lot, the world tilting, and then it tilted further. In the security feed at the desk, I'd glimpsed a car pulling into the lot around 2:20 that night. My car, the dent on the fender, the little sticker in the back window. Unmistakable. I hadn't left the apartment, but someone with a spare key had. Only Liam knew where I kept that key. At home, I collapsed onto the couch. Ira knocked an hour later carrying groceries. I blurted it out. The hotel, the receipt, the second figure. Her face softened with something like pity. She sat down and, after a long pause, told me the truth. That night, Anna wasn't with another man, Ira said. She was with a girl, 16, one of her students. The girl showed up at Anna's door bleeding, terrified, running from her father. "Anna couldn't call you. She didn't want to drag you into it. She took her to the police, then to the shelter." My head spun. I saw again the shadow on the porch, the pink hair tie in the dirt, the stain on the hoodie. They all rearranged themselves into a different picture. Not betrayal, protection. But if that was true, why the letter? Why the receipt on my seat? Why Liam's name at the Helix? The pieces clicked together with sickening force. The evidence I'd been collecting hadn't just been coincidence. Someone had been feeding me lies, planting them where I would find them. And it wasn't Anna. The realization left me cold, because if Liam had gone that far to twist the knife, he wasn't just jealous. He was trying to destroy us, and Anna still didn't know I knew. The next morning, I watched her walk down the courthouse corridor, called as a witness. Dasha's father had filed charges, claiming Anna had kidnapped his daughter. Anna's face was pale but steady. My phone buzzed in my pocket with a message from Liam. Don't let her talk her way out of this. You know the truth now. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. The truth was nothing like what he thought. And now I had to decide whether I'd be the one to destroy her, or the one to finally stand up for her. The courthouse hallway smelled like dust and old paper, and my hands wouldn't stop sweating. Anna sat on a bench a few feet away, waiting to be called in. Her shoulders were square, her braid neat, but her fingers kept twisting in her lap. She was about to testify against a man twice her size, a man who had terrorized his own daughter, and all I could think was how close I'd come to letting her stand there alone, poisoned by my own suspicion. The bailiff called her name. She stood, chin lifted, and disappeared into the courtroom. I stayed behind, back pressed against the cold wall, fighting the urge to storm in and spill everything. The lies, the setups, the hotel receipt, the anonymous note. My phone buzzed again. Liam, another message. If you want out, now's the time. Expose her. Walk away clean. For the first time, I saw it clearly. He had been nudging me, step by step, closer to the cliff. He knew about the cameras, knew about my scars from the past. He knew exactly which strings to pull. He'd planted the receipt in my car. He'd reserved the hotel room in his own name. He'd fed me paranoia like candy, waiting for me to choke on it. I opened the camera app, pulled up the logs, and pieced the timeline together. 2:17 a.m. At Helix, 2:20 a.m. My car entering the lot, 2:35 a.m. The police form timestamp, 3:04 a.m. Anna and the girl stepping into our house. The sequence was airtight. She couldn't have been at the hotel. She had been exactly where she said she wasn't, protecting a student. The gaps I thought I saw were his fingerprints all over my fear. When Anna emerged after testifying, her face was pale, but her eyes met mine like she was asking a question she didn't dare voice. I stood and, before I could stop myself, said it loud enough for people to turn. I believe you. Later, outside, I told her everything. The cameras, the receipt, the suspicion, the way Liam had played me. Her face crumpled, hurt not by guilt, but by the weight of realizing how close she'd come to losing me anyway. I wanted to tell you, she whispered, but it wasn't my secret to share. She begged me not to. I nodded, shame rising hot in my throat. I know, and I should have trusted you. That night, I went to Liam's apartment. He tried to laugh it off to tell me I was paranoid, but when I laid out the proof, his reservation, the copy of the receipt, the footage gaps he'd engineered, his smirk collapsed. You always had everything, he spat finally. I just wanted you to know what it felt like to watch it rot. I walked away without another word. He wasn't my friend anymore. Back home, the house felt different. Quieter, but not in the suffocating way. Anna and I sat on the couch, the gray hoodie folded between us, freshly washed. The stain was gone. She picked it up, placed it in my lap, and said softly, "The truth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent because it has to be." I reached for her hand, lacing my fingers through hers. On my phone, the doorbell camera feed glowed. I opened the settings and turned off cloud monitoring. For once, I didn't need proof. The last thing I did before bed was glance at the door, the empty stoop beyond. No shadows this time, just night air moving in slow waves. I whispered to myself, almost like a vow, I want to see her, not her reflection on a screen. And for the first time in weeks, I closed my eyes without replaying the footage.